a friend sent me this article, which is an op-ed from the New York Times. And the article is, mostly fine for an NYT op-ed. The thing about op-eds is that they're always like 1,000 or 2,000 words max, and that's not always a great length for a substantive discussion around a topic. But it does point out how there are fewer men in MFAs now, and there are fewer men reading literary fiction. I think the stat that it cited was that 80% of the readers of literary fiction are women. And it used a couple other pieces of data and anecdotes, including that one time when Joyce Carol Oates was like, yeah, it's hard out here for young white male authors. But ultimately, it does that thing that op-eds do where the call to action is to worry about a new thing. And this is a call to action that particularly liberal op-eds, I think, kind of do about a whole host of things. Anyway, so I don't like that, but I do, at least on some principle, think the decline of literary men or reading by men in general should be worrying, or is just bad. It's not ideal. It's not great. That's what I'm willing to settle on. Amidst all the other problems of masculinity, the reading is like, at best, the 9th most important thing, and at worst, like, probably about the 50th. And I had, like, an initial hyperbolic tongue-in-cheek take that, I was giving to my friend. I said, this is a baby-brained, pessimistic take. We're actually separating the wheat from the chaff. Literary men have always been overwhelmingly pompous, annoying, and wrong, and now those types can do that with some other crass hobby. There are more good literary men as a density to the overall population, and our grandchildren will look back at this time as a golden age when we are done. And then, 2 days later, Luigi Mangione was arrested for the murder of Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO, and shortly after that, people found all his social media, as you do when you discover the name of a 21st century killer, and they combed through it, including his Goodreads profile. And this is the first time I remember ever going through a killer's Goodreads list, so that's a cool new thing. I can mark that off my 21st century bingo card. It used to be you had to catch a killer reading Catcher in the Rye just after he had done the deed to your third favorite Beatle. Now, you just get to trawl through his entire social media history, and you get to know everything about his terrible literary tastes. Trying not to shame people too much on this video, but some people might catch some strays. So looking through Mr. Mangione's Goodreads made me think back to this op-ed about the decline of literary men, because Luigi is not a poorly read person. He is a reader, but one would not look at the books he has actually read and conclude that he is a literary man, right? Among his 15 favorite books, like I think 13 of them were nonfiction, 2 of them were fiction, one was The Lorax, a children's book, and the other was Brave New World. And Brave New World is literature, but it's like literally Catcher in the Rye literature. It's famous literature that most people read in either high school or college, or at the very least, they hear about it. Meet the New Boss, same as the old boss. We've been here before. These guys that kill famous people, that kill people in this spectacular and symbolic way, their favorite novel is just the most basic shit you've ever read in high school. To his credit, Luigi did have Infinite Jest and Moby Dick on his to-read list. He even had some Kim Stanley Robinson on there, so it's not as though he wasn't aware of the next step, but the most interesting literature on his Goodreads profile was the stuff that he hadn't gotten to, which, listen, I hope, while he's awaiting trial, potentially while he's incarcerated. You got a lot of time, Luigi. Just put in a call to you can do it now. There's time now. That can be your prison project. Most of what this guy reads and what he wants to read are those nonfiction colon books where the subtitle is just kind of a sentence-long thesis of the book. Think Atomic Habits, Sapiens, How to Change Your Mind, Elon Musk and Peter Thiel books. It's literally, he just wants to read, like, the topics of the day. He wants to read about what's happening now, which I do think is a little underserved in literary fiction. It's just harder to get stuff that feels, immediate within the last 12 to 24 months in literary fiction. But I also think it speaks to, this is just sort of the natural thing that maybe guys overwhelmingly writ large want to read. The literary fiction he had listed tended to be more aspirational, while the biographies or books of reportage, science, popular nonfiction, how to live, cook, stuff on back pain, that's what was all immediate to his world. And to me, this feels kind of like the crux of the matter. This is what I'm trying to get at in this video. I think these nonfiction books especially are just more accessible. They spell out exactly what's going to be in the book. Their titles and their writing style are not meant to be subtle, and they are meant to be informative and direct. And listen, I got a lot of sympathy for that. I like nonfiction too. I have read plenty of books that Luigi has and have found them interesting. These books are attempting to cut through the bullshit in a world that is just riven with misinformation and liars. But all this is to say that the function of these books is for the author to decode something for the reader and explain it to you in layman's terms. And that is not an impulse well suited of literary men. It's a small thing, it's a small difference, but the more that you repeat that action, and the more that you read these books, the more you let Michael Pollan and like Mark Manson and Elon Musk do the decoding for you, I think you're probably less interested in approaching literature that demands that you be the decoder. Something like Brave New World is going to be your favorite novel because it's very on the nose and it's really a book of ideas and the plot's not that interesting. You're going to have a want to read list like Lex Fridman, which, sidebar, I know this is like a 2-year-old tweet, but I have opinions on this. So if you don't know, Lex Fridman, like 2 years ago, posted a list of books that he wanted to read in 2023. And he posted it to everyone's favorite site, twitterx.com, the Everything app. And it ended up being like a couple days of discourse, which I thought looked bad for people that I agreed with, just from the standpoint of tactics. I don't think we necessarily need the broader public seeing left-aligned personalities excoriate people for wanting to read like a basic high school literature list, essentially. Trust me, the nuance is not getting through, especially on twitterx.com, the Everything app. But I think this impulse and this discussion is at the heart of why people were dunking on Lex back then. Lex only wanted to read books that were already widely discussed. He only had canonical, popular things on there. It was also very white, as many people pointed out. Every opinion on those books and every meaning is available, whether it's through like lectures on YouTube or podcasts or interviews or just whatever. Like genuinely, you could still outsource all of the decoding for these books if you just added like one more hour of reading, listening, watching, whatever, which I'm not saying that everyone is, and I'm not saying that's what Lex was doing, but you're engaging with stuff that overall is just kind of solved. And at a certain point, if you're only engaging with wildly popular books, you're not really stoking your curiosity, you're flattering it. And the thing is, I go back to my original hyperbolic tongue-in-cheek take that I sent to my friend. Like, this type of literary man that just wants to read the popular stuff has always existed, like, to be quite fair. This has probably been most of literary men, which is why I made that joke. And this is still a common type of literary man, the guy who sees literature as a checklist. He's the guy in the textbook in Dead Poets Society with the poems and the graphs, and he's like, oh, Lord Byron or whoever is this many, and Shakespeare is this many. It's that kind of relationship with literature. Frankly, it's a more capitalist-friendly approach to literature because you're coming to art primarily for utility or value rather than mystery or uncertainty. And I think that's mostly what men are looking for when they come to reading. They're looking it through a more value capitalist. What can I gain from this? What understanding can I implant in my brain? And that's really where I want to wind this conversation up. If I have a call to action in my own video op-ed I'm doing right now, my call to action, men, is to embrace mystery in your life. Embrace uncertainty, especially in artistic outlets or in finding different art to consume. Don't go through life thinking that you need to chase the next answer around every corner. Don't go through your life thinking you always need to chase the next answer around every corner. A lot of the easy answers end up being wrong every few years anyway. There's whole podcasts dedicated to why a lot of the books that he's read are actually kind of terrible and not very thoughtful. Literature is about going on an adventure whose lesson or goal you don't know from the outset. And so, my kind of closing statement, Luigi, baby, sweet boy, I know you're watching this. I do hope you watch this. I have friended you on Goodreads, so as soon as they should have internet in the clink, right? As soon as you get access back to that, hit accept. And I hear you like handwritten notes, so I will make it my goal I am dead serious on this. I'm going to try to become pen pals with him. And we're also going to see if, you're actually willing to maybe read some more serious literature. Like, come on, let's do Infinite Summer, dude. You and me. Doesn't have to be public. We can just do it through correspondence. It's going to be great. We can read Moby Dick. I just read that for the first time. I was new to it. Great book. Highly recommend. You should watch my other YouTube videos that are on my channel. I have great recommendations. Anyway, this is getting to be a long goodbye. Luigi Mangione, please accept my good friend Goodreads request. Everyone else, be good. Don't murder any CEOs.